Your new Nest project would have a specific directory structure. By default, it is the so-called standard mode, which means your repository will be used to create one application. Nest also supports the monorepo mode, which essentially means one code repository is used to store multiple software projects that share a lot of the common code. At this point, make sure you have the project opened in a code editor like the VS Code. In the root directory of the project, you can find some configuration files like the tsconfig.json that configures how TypeScript should be transpiled into the JavaScript, or the package.json with the project dependencies specified, some useful npm scripts predefined by Nest, which, by the way, can be run using npm run followed by the command name, and at the bottom, the Jest configuration. Jest is a testing framework. We will talk about it in depth much later though. Your application source code lives inside the src folder. The test folder is the house for end-to-end tests. We will get back into end-to-end tests in a separate section of the course. Let's take a look at what we can find inside the src folder first. Starting with a main.ts file, which is an entry point of the application. The bootstrap function inside the file is responsible for creating the new Nest application object and starting the server, so it listens at the port specified, which is 3000 by default. The biggest building block distinguishable in your Nest application is a module. As your application grows, you would create separate modules that encapsulate more fine-grained building blocks, like controllers, services, tests, entities, and much more. But at this point, we just have one default app module. Module is an abstract idea that groups certain functionality. Every module would be defined in its own file, like the app module ts. Module is a class annotated with a module decorator. Don't worry if the decorator concept is something you haven't heard about before. You can read more about them using link from the resources section. We will also create our own later in the course. NestJS uses decorators a lot, and almost all module properties and functionality can be defined using a class decorator as this one. Other typical parts of the module are controllers. They let you define your API endpoints. Service is a class where you'll put the business logic of the application, something not directly connected with handling HTTP request or sending a response. Then unit tests should be placed next to the original file. Being tested, for example, the test file for the default app controller is defined in a file with the same name but having a .spec suffix placed in the same directory. Don't worry, you are not expected to understand or remember it all during this single lecture. We will get back to talk about modules, services, controllers, and tests in detail later. As a recap, your Nest application starting point is the main.ts file that bootstraps the application. Nest apps consist of modules, always having at least one main module, by default called the app module. The module is comprised of controllers, services, entities, and other smaller building blocks. Modules are defined in their own module files, and the class decorator module is used to describe them.